You're listening to the Thriving Mindfully podcast. I'm Ananda Leeke, your Thriving Mindfully coach and podcast host. I'm also an artist, an author, a human design doula, and an interfaith reverend. The Thriving Mindfully podcast is a heart-centered, digital sacred space that I created to inspire and empower you to be present, well, and the real you. Tune into the latest conversation I've been having with myself and others about nurturing, transforming, and celebrating our lives, relationships, and career. Today's podcast explores how you can shine your light on yourself when you share your living. Share your living is the third core commitment of the Thriving Mindfully, heart-centered approach to being present, well, and the real you. Share your living is all about mindful communication. So tune in to what I had to say. I've always been connected to my ancestors, always. I can't remember a time when I wasn't connected to them. And I had the honor of being around my grandparents and my great aunt, Aunt Pauline, and listening to all their stories growing up and listening to my mom. And when I was able to visit my grandparents in Indianapolis, listening to my grandfather, Papa, that's what we called him, share his stories. I've always been connected to my ancestors. And first it was through photographs and stories from my grandparents, my great aunt, and others. And then it was direct contact with them. And I'll never forget it. The first time I had direct contact with one of my ancestors, it was my great-grandmother, Florida Jones Leeke Bingham. She got married twice. Go for it, great-grandmother Florida, right? The first time I was in contact with her was when I was 12 years old. And I was delivering the newspaper as a newspaper girl for the Washington Post. And it was early one morning and it was cold and it was the winter time. And I was delivering papers and I remember looking up at the sky and the horizon. And in Maryland, like in a lot of places on the East Coast, even though Maryland's in the South, you'll get a really beautiful pink and orangey kind of horizon. And so I was walking and pushing a grocery cart because that's how I delivered newspapers. And I remember hearing her talk to me. She came to me. And I came home and I told my mom, and my mom was like, yeah, your ancestors can talk to you. What did she say? And I told my mom that my great-grandmother Florida was just introducing herself to me. And I knew it was her because I had seen pictures of her, And then throughout the years, she would just pop up. It wasn't until my great aunt Pauline passed in 1986, and I was living in my first apartment all by myself in my studio apartment in the Woodner in D.C. And I was a first-year law student at Howard, and she made her transition in October of 1986, and it was right after her celebration of life service. I had some of her furniture. And I saw her in my apartment. And I started talking to her. And then I started talking to her parents, my great-grandparents. Eunice Ann Thomas Roberts and Granny Man, her husband, Henry Osborne Roberts. And they started showing up. And her sister, Mabel, my great aunt Mabel, started showing up. And so they started showing up on the regular. And they would just be there to remind me that they were protecting me. They were there for my support. Always there for my support. Well, fast forward to the 90s, and more ancestors started showing up. And I started looking into the power of the ancestors, like really wanting to know more about it and having conversations with people and participating in libation, the calling on ancestors. And this started around 1992. And when I began connecting with African spirituality, I really started to see that part of the way that I share my living is being in relationship and communication with my ancestors. And that could include having an ancestral altar, which I have had in different forms, both in my home and virtually, electronically, having like photo collages and keeping their photos on my phone and on my computer and pulling them up and looking at them. Photo albums are a form of an altar for me. Having their pictures out is another form, or wearing their clothing, or having their jewelry and wearing it, eating off of their plates, having some of their furniture, blankets, bowls, all kinds of things, to keep that connection there. Rereading cards that they sent me and being connected to them there. Fixing food, that they ate. And recently, it's been spending time connecting with them through the information that we've been able to gather as a family from African Ancestry and Ancestry.com, and looking at our family tree and being in communication with the various ancestors that I've been blessed to know about and to connect with. And of course, always calling out for their support and being very clear about wanting to be in relationship with the ancestors that are healed and are able to support me in my evolution as I move through things. So the relationship with our ancestors is another way that we share our living. I want to stop and ask you, what kind of relationship, if any, or connection do you have to your ancestors? Is that something that you have been interested in, or that you want to cultivate, or that you've already had, that you've always had? And how do you nurture that relationship? And when do you reach out to them? I know for myself, I include my ancestors in all my prayers, all my daily prayers. And I have conversations with them a lot throughout the week. I do. Of late, I've been talking to them a lot. Just learning about their lives and what they went through in order for me to be here. I have included my ancestors in my writing and in my artwork. And that's how I'm sharing my living. And I find that being in relationship with my ancestors, it strengthens me. It gives me the courage to move forward, especially when I drop down into a space where I may not think I'm worthy. I get triggered about I don't have enough, or I'm not enough, or I'm not doing enough. It helps me stay grounded. It lets me know that no matter where I am, they are always there. Yeah. So wherever you find this podcast, I'd love to hear about your way of sharing your living with your ancestors, how you are in relationship with them. And if you're not, are you interested in it? Is that something that you've been wanting to explore? Yeah, I look forward to hearing from you. Let's keep this conversation going about how we are relating to our ancestors and how we're sharing our living, how we're showing up. Yeah. All right, y'all. Tune in to some announcements, and I will talk to you next time. Bye. Thanks for tuning in to the Thriving Mindfully podcast. If you're ready to be inspired and empowered with my coaching support, join me in the Thriving Mindfully Academy. Visit anandaleeke.com/academy. Now, if you're ready to dive deeper and move past your comfort zone with my one-on-one coaching program, book a discovery call with me today. Visit anandaleeke.com. If you need something juicy to read, check out my 3 mindfulness books: Love's Troubadours, a self-love and yoga-inspired novel; That Which Awakens Me, a mindful creativity memoir; and Digital Sisterhood, a mindful technology memoir. Go to anandaleeke.com/books. All of my books are available on Amazon.com. Well, that about wraps us up. And as I always like to say, may we all continue to embrace thriving mindfully in everything that we think, feel, say, and do. See you next time.